All right, welcome back, everybody, from my 3 week to month-ish hiatus from the weekly chats. I know y'all missed me. I'm joined by the common guest, Steve Oman. It's a lot of good things for him going on this week, but mainly one. But before we get into that, Steve, how you doing?
Common, that's high praise, Chuck.
Well, you're a quite frequent guest of the show, yeah.
Yeah, I know I missed you in the 3 weeks off or month or whatever it was.
All right, good. So we're gonna start off with something that, and if I had enough time to sit back and edit old video, I could crop something up. But you were the initiator of the Brock Osweiler fan club to get him to start, and he's going to get his start this week against the Chicago Bears. And I'll give you the floor.
Well, I think the very first time we talked, I said Brock Osweiler should be starting a quarterback for the Broncos. And I guess you could say that it's the injuries, the ribs, the feet, the ankles, whatever it was with Peyton. But he's really looked like garbage and gotten away with it for the entire year, with the exception of the Packer game, which even then it was not throwing the ball very well. That was just a truly terrible defensive effort. But anyway, now Brock gets his chance to shine. I think I'm going to pick him up in a couple fantasy leagues. I think he's going to dance all over him this weekend.
So that's your true expectation?
Yeah. Well, dance all over him might be a little strong, but I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be solid. He's had plenty of time to learn. There's no question about that. And I think when even pretty good quarterbacks get that kind of time, to watch, to figure things out, they generally come in and are pretty good.
So how long do you think the leash? I know he's probably going to play the full game on Sunday. Well, he's going to play the full game on Sunday.
Peyton's in street clothes.
Yeah.
I don't. Who did they pick up?
I don't know. So he will play the full game Sunday, but they play the Patriots the week after that. So I don't know how long this is just going to be. You might have to enjoy this while it's here because it might be a 1 week.
If Brock Osweiler doesn't throw 4 interceptions on Sunday, he better play against the Patriots because they will devour Peyton Manning if he plays.
Peyton versus Brady one last time. I think Peyton's going to want to be out there.
Oh, that'd be sad. That'd be like George Foreman fighting in his 40s.
Well, he did do it though.
He actually won a title in his 40s, I think. But anyway,
yeah.
It just I don't think Peyton against the Patriots is. I don't think they can win that game with Peyton starting a quarterback, and I think there's an outside chance they can win that game with Brock starting a quarterback.
Okay, all right.
That's with seeing him play for 1/2.
And your massive bias for Brock Osweiler as well. So,
yeah,
that's that. Is there anything else you want to add quickly on that, or just go?
No, I think that's. All right. The T-shirts should be shipped. They should be. There should be one on your doorstep by Saturday, so you can wait for the game Sunday.
Okay. Is it like a player tee, or is it some catchy Osweiler phrase on it?
It's like a graffiti style.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Got a caricature of Oz on there.
Okay. Fair. That's fair. A lot going on in sports. There's a few things now with basketball in full swing and whatnot. Before we get to the big basketball topic, I want to talk about the fight from this past weekend with Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm. Absolute domination. I've never seen it more. I didn't watch it live. I watched it's nice with UFC. They don't take very long, so you can just get a clip and watch it. So I watched the entire fight after. The most electric women's event I've ever seen. And it was a complete domination. It was, and they're talking a rematch and whatnot. And I think that Rousey got absolutely exposed. It exposed the hardos of UFC who think that boxers can't beat UFC people, which I've been on team boxing from the start. People who said that like Floyd Mayweather would lose to Rousey because Rousey could get Floyd to the ground. It was absolutely baffling. But and then they're talking a rematch. I don't see any way. Like, there's no point in that fight once you start watching where you're like, Rousey has a chance to win this fight. Um, so they can talk rematch. I don't think that goes very well for Rousey again. She said she's going to take a long time off, like a year or so. So maybe she trains herself to be better or whatnot. But it was absolute domination, and the ref basically stopped murder on Saturday night. So do you have any thoughts on that? I don't know if you watched the fight or not, but
I didn't watch the fight. Obviously, I saw the kick. I saw some of the highlights and whatnot. I'm not a huge UFC guy as it is. I've never paid to watch UFC. I don't think I've ever actually watched like a big time main event live in UFC.
okay,
So
yeah.
I might not be the best person to be breaking this down.
No, I'm
So
not
I
trying.
guess
I'm not trying to break it down. I think I'm just anti. I'm anti Rousey because she's on my
yeah.
TV screen every other minute for a variety of things that I didn't think were warranted. I mean, she beat up on uh, obvious inferior competition so far, and it was kind of Dana White's golden child. So I thought it was pretty good that she had her face.
But the whole point is that she beat up on all the competition she ever saw, and they didn't think there was. It's not like she was taking on everyone lower in the division and ducking the people that were second. She beat every top contender.
Yeah,
they're just that she just like happened to be
that much
better than all of them.
Yeah,
you know.
I understand.
So it's not like she's like beating up on tomato cans all her whole career.
No, I'm not saying that, but like I know with UFC especially, and I'm not any UFC expert as is either, but I know there are a lot of fighters in both the men's and the women's that don't fight in UFC because they don't have like a contract.
Right.
So I feel like there were a lot of good women fighters or boxers who just hadn't, signed a contract, and then this Holly Holm does, and then obvious cleanup job by her on Saturday. So just wanted to, touch on that and then give you my thoughts. So that's that. We're going to touch on one more non-football topic before we get to the football stuff, and it's the NBA season is in swing. And something has really, really started to bother me, and that is Steph Curry being named the greatest player ever, and they pick him on their team over anybody else. And obviously, it's well documented the LeBron fan that I am. But I think that this talk over a year and 12 game sample to all of a sudden say Steph over everybody, I think is baffling. And I want to raise this question. If you had one season to win a title and you could pick any player in the NBA, who are you taking?
Yeah, if it's like this year and you're starting from scratch without the rosters and stuff, I'm still taking LeBron.
Okay.
And I am wearing a LeBron shirtsy for
So
just for the sake of
fanboy as well.
Yeah, I've always been a LeBron guy. But yeah, and I mean, Steph obviously does things on his own that even LeBron doesn't do, especially, like the way he handles the ball and gets shots up and things like that are, those are special things. He's the best in the league at that. There's no question about it. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, too, that when you look at, like, it's obviously really early in the year, but when you look at the year the Warriors are having, as far as, like, for their team, they're like 10 deep with guys that are playing out of their minds right now. The Cavs are not.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. So, Steph, yeah, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's phenomenal. He's easily the best, shooter of all time. I don't think that's in question. Obviously, handles, great passer. He's literally had one good season with a team that every guy you could argue on that team improved immensely from pre-Mark Jack, or when they had Mark Jackson switched to Kerr that year. They improved. Clay got way better. Draymond is now a max deal guy. Harrison Barnes probably got better. Iguodala fit into his role perfectly. Bogut, great defensive. They kind of had a perfect team. And obviously he was a catalyst of it all. But if you look at LeBron, you could literally put any four guys on the court with him, and I feel confident that they win 55 games. 50.
Yeah.
And that I don't think is the same with Steph.
I think if you swap out LeBron with the best player on any team in the East, they're probably the favorites to win the East.
I agree.
Maybe Brooklyn isn't, but even Brooklyn probably,
Yeah, if you drop LeBron on any of these teams, I think in the league even maybe they, like if you switch LeBron with James Harden, I think Houston's the number one team in the West.
See that? I don't know. I think the Warriors are just so deep. They're so good.
They are, and they might be still a favorite in the West. But I just think if you're looking to win a championship, LeBron almost beat that team.
That's true. Alone.
With J.R. Smith, Matt Dellavedova, Mozgov, Tristan Thompson, not that those guys are bums, but they're not Clay, Draymond, Bogut, Iguodala. Andre Iguodala was a multiple-time All-Star. He had a massive contract, 4 years, $50-some million, and he's coming off the bench and playing 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think as a team, they're a very good team. I think Steph is obviously a phenomenal player, but I heard guys talking about like he could be the greatest player of all time already, and he's literally been this good for 1 year.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, I think obviously some people have to pump their brakes on that, but for people to say that he's playing better than LeBron or has been playing better than LeBron for the last however many months you want to go, 14 months or whatever, I don't think that's crazy.
No, that's not far-fetched. And he definitely deserved to win the MVP last year. And LeBron's also at a point in his career where he's not going balls to the walls for all 82. He's obviously at a point where the only months that matter are April, May, June.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And he's fully embraced, it seems like, the old man aesthetic. I love his look this year.
Yeah.
Got the shorts way up high. He's got the mustache going.
Stop caring
It
about
seems
the
like
hair.
I was going to say the hair. I think it's awesome that LeBron is just pounding on guys with a terrible mustache and balding.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to shave it. He's not letting it go. Like
no, I agree. He's gotten to the point where it's like he's crossed from I really care about what people are saying about me and whatnot to just being like, whatever. Screw all you guys. So
make fun of my hairline. I'm still going to hammer on you.
Yeah, and he will. So he's actually quietly not like people are saying he's like been not LeBron, but he's been like pretty LeBron so far.
He's been pretty LeBron so far this year. He started this year a lot better than he started last year.
Yeah. And like I saw some stat, he's like on pace to have like his 9th consecutive 27-6 or his 9th season of 27, 6 and 6 averaging, which is absurd. He'd be the only person ever to do that. So I just want to pump the brakes in the Steph Curry talk a little bit. But it is becoming a 2-horse race with them because Durant can't stay healthy. Davis has started to be a flop this year. He's not a flop, but he hasn't performed to what the people thought he would perform this year. That's that. We'll move on to football now. Just
finally,
we'll touch on college football here. Obviously, we're getting down to the end. The playoff rankings are out. It was Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame again. Yeah, Notre Dame again last night, 1 through 4. Iowa 5. 6 was Oklahoma State, I believe.
I'm gonna have to look at that.
Yeah,
I think it might have been 4.
No, Notre Dame was 4. I'm almost positive. Yeah.
Oh. I hope they don't get back in.
So, what are your thoughts on on the playoffs, and how do you maybe see it shaking out?
I guess my hope, not as much as my thoughts, would be Clemson, Bama, someone from the Big 12. Which, if it's not Oklahoma State, it's going to be tough.
Oklahoma's the only other team that has a chance to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if Oklahoma wins out and Notre Dame loses to Stanford, then Oklahoma's going to get in, I would say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I actually am. I'm kind of low key rooting for Iowa to get in there because can you just imagine New Year's Eve national semifinal, Iowa Hawkeyes running out of the tunnel? Oh, it would be magical.
No,
Can you imagine that?
I don't want to imagine that. I don't. The Iowa argument is, I don't get it. I think the eyeball test is the most important thing that these guys need to do. I get the whole resume thing, but like in football, you need to, like, I think if Houston played Iowa right now, I think Houston would beat Iowa.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And the thing is I have this terrible feeling right now that Iowa is going to play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship and somehow win that football game.
I don't think there's any way that happens.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling.
I guess, I mean, Ohio State hasn't looked untouchable.
No, and a few years ago, Michigan State, nobody thought they would beat Ohio State. I understand that Iowa's worse than that Michigan State team was, but nobody thought that Michigan State could beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and then they did. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I would like my Alabama preseason prediction of losing 3 to 4 games could not have been more wrong. Obviously, I think the last few teams have just approached how they play them extremely wrong. Like, and I think Mississippi State outplayed Alabama last week, but for like the 3 quarters but Mississippi State didn't score in the red zone. They got stuffed at the 1-1, so they had to kick a field goal another time. Then obviously, Derrick Henry busts a couple of long runs later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But so Bama's offense is so bad that I don't want to see them in there, but they're going to be in there. I think it'll be Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and I think Oklahoma's going to win out. So I think they're going to slip in there. And
you think Stanford's going to beat Notre Dame?
I think even if both of them win out, I think Oklahoma might get the nod.
No way.
All right, agree to disagree there. I think they might.
I think that if both those teams win out and the Golden Domers have a chance to be in the playoff, there's no way that group of men and women decide that Notre Dame's not going to the playoff. All right, we'll see. If their resume is even close, they're going to make it into the playoff.
But I don't know if it will be. Who has Notre Dame actually beaten?
I'm just saying, if Notre Dame's a one-loss team, they're getting it.
Okay. All right. That's that. We'll move to NFL. It's a good time for me in the NFL, kind of.
This week wasn't.
Well, it is because Nick Foles is now benched, which is good for me.
Okay.
And Case Keenum's not much better, but the Rams are at a position where they are a quarterback away from being a legit contender, like a solid quarterback.
Which Chuck has been saying since 2010.
And we haven't gotten one. So even a guy like Cutler, I'll take Cutler 24/7, 365 with this team right now.
Cutler's playing incredible.
Yeah.
He's had a great year.
Yeah. So we can fire Jeff Fisher, hire Adam Gase, and bring Cutler with, and we'll be in Super Bowl next year in the NFC. You can book that. The Patriots comeback win over the Giants, 27-26, a great game. I don't know if you watched it all.
Yeah, I saw it.
I'm still worried about them, though, because you lose Deion Lewis, you lose Edelman. Their offensive line is in shambles. Jamie Collins hasn't played in 2 weeks. And they don't really have a whole lot of guys in that roster that can like replace some of those guys. Like Amendola isn't as good as Edelman, so he'll do an okay job, but nobody can replace what Lewis did. So I still think undefeated is in the picture with them, but it's shaky. I could definitely see them slipping up on a game that they should win, and they don't. What are your thoughts on the Patriots status?
I kind of doubt they're gonna go. I doubt they're gonna finish the regular season undefeated.
Yeah, I'm at that point too.
But which I don't think is that far out on a limb that they're not going to win their next,
6 games.
the next 6 games. But who in the AFC is going to beat them in the playoffs? The Bengals?
Pittsburgh.
No. Pittsburgh's got a shot. Pittsburgh's the one. Obviously, Roethlisberger better be at least kind of healthy at some point.
Well, I mean,
they have a bye this week. Hopefully, he'll. Yeah, but and I guess nobody plays hurt better than Roethlisberger because he came in. He didn't even start last week, and obviously came in and played great.
He threw for 350 or something. Yeah,
yeah, it's just what he does. I guess Pittsburgh does have the best shot at him, and they might get him in the playoffs. But I don't see anybody else. Like Denver, no.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, and I think Pittsburgh's the only team in the AFC. Cincinnati, which we're going to get to that too. But yeah, AFC, I don't see anything. NFC, I think the NFL kind of stinks this year.
Yeah, there's some weirdness going on.
Just aren't like there's just not a lot of like really good teams.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is some kind of a bias I have, but it seems to me that the NFC teams are more dangerous in general than the AFC teams.
Okay, who in the NFC do you think is dangerous?
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm more afraid of the Vikings than I am of the Bengals. Or I'm more afraid of the Cardinals than I am of the Broncos.
Yeah, the Cardinals are.
The Cardinals are super good. I'm more afraid of, even at 4-5, I'm more afraid of Seattle than I am of the fringe playoff teams in the AFC.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair because the Manning stuff now already looking like he's reverting back to last year is not good. The AFC South is obviously dumpster. The East, you got the Jets and the Bills, who the Patriots have owned for a decade plus. And then, in the North, you have the Bengals and the Steelers. So, yeah, I would agree. The NFC has more dangerous teams. Yeah. So let's get to what happened Monday night. The reemergence of J.J. Watt onto our national scope.
Yep.
And the exposure of Andy Dalton once again.
I think exposure is kind of a tough word. The guy plays 8 great games and then he plays like shit, and all of a sudden he's being exposed.
The national TV thing it's not like a small sample size anymore. Like he has not been good in big games. And
you're calling this Houston Monday night game in early November a big game?
It's a national televised game.
Yeah, I mean his numbers obviously haven't been great there, but I think it would be a little rash to say that Andy Dalton's garbage again because he had this bad game this week.
He's not garbage.
And that he's been okay. I think saying that he's exposed is a little far.
He's not as high as like people are talking from like MVP, which sure he was playing at that level, but he's the regression was coming. I in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I completely expected them to lay an egg at some point. I didn't think it was going to be against Houston in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But and I mean, laying an egg in such a tremendous fashion, scoring 6 points, and it was just an ugly game.
Yeah, it was terrible to watch
all the way around.
So
it's bad football.
So what? Okay. Leading into the game, he had a quote, and I know you retweeted it, and I saw it as well, almost like simultaneously. Saying, like it's all it's kind of awesome that nobody knows how hard I work. It was something along those lines, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's better if people don't know how hard you work.
Yeah, yeah.
For some, I don't.
And then the Monday night broadcast and himself had an absolute field day of material for us. So Tirico said JJ Watt never like he does all this without like a camera on him. Like all this hard work and stuff. Tirico said that. It's almost like ESPN like paid him to say it. On the DeAndre Hopkins touchdown, he made damn sure that he sprinted from the sideline to the end zone to get in Hopkins' face, helmet to helmet, with a camera literally right next to him.
That was crazy. Because you're absolutely right. And I was watching.
Magnitude.
Yeah, and I was watching, and they score a touchdown. When have they ever? They scored a touchdown, and it was a split second before they cut to JJ Watt on the sidelines.
Yeah,
it was insane.
It was a dead sprint from where he was down to the. I don't even think that's legal, by the way.
No, probably not.
There's like a player's box, I think, that you're not supposed to like cross that line. But he did that.
You think a player's box is containing JJ Watt?
No, not at all. And he did that in a game where it was a Monday night game. They're like 3-5 and have given up 50 points to like multiple people. And he was on the unit that did that. After the game, then he made the red rifle, red BB gun comment about Dalton. Made a comment where when he like came out of the game late, said he got hit in the dick, but wouldn't say it on in the interview because ESPN wouldn't want him to say that. So he said, and then he said he went back in the game, which he didn't do that. Then he went with Ray Lewis and them. Had two of the most absolute bananas comments I've ever heard. One, he said that before they went to Cincinnati, he sat in Reliant Stadium by himself and like just got perspective on what it was like to be a fan again in an empty stadium.
It's perfect.
Then he said that he plays the game for all the people that wish that this was their job. And that like he's like so like appreciative that this is what he gets to like go to work every day with the greatest teammates in the world and play football, and that's who he plays for, is all those people that just wish that they were him. And it was literally a laundry list of stuff that just. What are your thoughts? I'll just let you. I've talked enough about it, so I'll let you say what you need to say.
No, you covered it pretty well. I mean, at this point, it's almost too obvious to be like making fun of it. I don't know what you just kind of have to like get it out there.
Do you think that
just keep retweeting those things?
Do you think that he's like giving it to us now?
What do you mean? Like he's joking?
Do you think he's like trolling? Do you think he's like trolling us at this point?
No, I don't think he is. I suggested that early on, that it might be just a really long con, which would be, if that was the case, that would be hilarious. That would be great. But it's not the case. There's no way. He either believes it or he thinks that it's like making him a bunch of money, which it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And I think that for the most part he's believing this stuff. Like that that this is like what he thinks football players should be like, which is dumb.
2 questions. Do you think that his teammates resent him or are beginning to?
100%.
Like I bet
DeAndre Hopkins was.
I think so too. I think 100% he was pissed off about it.
Or he should be if he wasn't.
Yeah. Second, at what point does the media flip to be like, this is overblown? Not like
I think we're seeing a lot of that.
Not like ESPN, but like like the SB Nations and we are seeing some of that. But like I want to.
I think a lot of those. I think a lot of those mediums are absolutely already there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's been SB Nation, obviously like Barstool. They
Yeah.
give it to him. And I think we're seeing some mainstream, a lot of
like
a lot more mainstream NFL writers,
when is
kind of calling it out too.
When is like NFL Network and SI and Yahoo and ESPN? When do you think they flip? I don't think ESPN ever flips, but
ESPN won't. No,
I think NFL Network is getting extremely close to flipping because some of those guys have a little keen sense of humor, and they get like this is a little bit overblown. Like I think they flipped a little bit with Russell Wilson already.
Yeah.
So I think Watt's next, and Watt, as a Wisconsin, you grew up in Wisconsin your whole entire life.
Just a small town Wisconsin boy like me.
Do you resent the fact that he's from Wisconsin?
No. There are lots of shitty people from Wisconsin.
Do you resent the fact that Tony Romo's from Wisconsin?
No, less than Watt.
Okay. So that's my kind of my thing. All right. So Watt, the thing about, and I'm going to say this last thing, the thing about Watt that's made it unbelievably sad is how good he is. And I can't even respect that at this point because he just overdoes it so much.
Yeah. Pretty much anything, even the good stuff that he does, is responded to by me with like a wanking motion because I just don't care.
How does he have a camera in front of his face all the time?
Yeah.
Like even like working out, like I've seen like 15 like videos of him working out at this point.
Yeah. Well, most guys in the NFL don't lift weights. I think the tide's starting to turn on that. He's kind of on the forefront of guys really caring about their physiques in the NFL. So,
yeah.
I forgot to tell you, I got a couple of free issues of Men's Health. First one shows up in the old mailbox downstairs. Who's on the cover? J.J. Watt.
I'm shocked it's not on your wall, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. I should have grabbed it. He's got his shirt off, the football pants pulled down nice and low.
So
it's a good look. So anyway, and I wanted to add one thing about Dalton.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, so quickly, let's touch on Andy Dalton's response to the red rifle comment after the game.
Okay, so at first I read them and I thought, oh, he's trolling him. That's pretty funny. That's a good troll move to like call out his integrity for the game because he's J.J. Watt, and he's like he might as well have integrity for the game tattooed on his forehead.
Yeah.
So I thought he was making fun of him, which I thought was like a really funny thing for Andy Dalton to do. But then I heard it and the tone wasn't quite right for for him trolling him. And I thought, well, maybe it's still possible. Well, then today, I don't know if you saw this even or heard it. Dalton like apologized and was like, I didn't actually hear what he said. I was responding to what an interviewer told me. Obviously I have respect for what JJ does. I think JJ is a great player. JJ and I don't have beef. Blah blah blah, which sucks because I really wish he would have just doubled down and said this guy's a loser.
Here's the thing: he wasn't trolling him, by the way.
No, I know he wasn't. Obviously now that's very clear.
That's a good point that you read the quotes first, because if you read the quote, you can easily think that. But watching him almost break down in tears and stutter the words was jarring. Over a comment,
get a grip, Andy.
Over a comment so minuscule as that,
and it was a super lame line.
Yeah, the Watts.
Yeah, that's a terrible line.
That's made for TV line. He had that locked and loaded for some time now. There's no doubt.
No question about it. That was not a spur.
He's not smart enough to just let's get this Christmas Story reference in there to rip on Andy Dalton. So, Dalton also looked awful in that press conference. The hair thing is something else. And his outfits every week are kind of bizarre. The leather is like a leather biker jacket almost, but so yeah.
He's got all the money in the world. He can wear what he wants.
Sure. Okay. So be it. So I'm kind of starting to get a feeling you're on the Andy Dalton fan club, because that's 2 times now that you've kind of backed him. So we'll move on to the big.
I just like to argue with you, Charles.
The big story that I've called for about a month and a half, but I'm not going to get into all that. The Packers absolutely suck. Um, they're done. If you get buried 6 feet under, they're about 4 right now.
So you think it's over?
I I think that. Do you want me to give my shtick first, or do you want to go?
No, you go first. This is fine.
Okay.
I think it's also telling that we're like 45 minutes in, and we're just now getting to the
No, we're not.
team that most of our listeners care about the most.
We're not 45. We start at like 12:20, 12:20. We're about half an hour in. So the problems are like I'm a firm believer, even like in today's day and age, where there's smoke, there's probably a fire. So the McCarthy Rogers mashing heads has been like a thing for a while now, kind of behind the scenes, and they won, so nobody ever like really like hit it hard, addressed it. But there's some real issues there. I've read that McCarthy's obviously gave up play calling because he's sick of dealing with Rogers. Rogers now is being called, like all he cares about is his stats, doesn't want to risk an interception to, possibly make a play. And I firmly believe that a lot of that is accurate. And I think that your team is your team at this point. Like what are you going to do differently that's going to make this start to work? And I don't see, like, if you couldn't have done it from Denver to Carolina to Detroit, like, when is it going to happen? Because Minnesota's got a great defense too. So when is it going to happen? Like, and then like you said, the NFC, there's a lot of teams that scare you. And this with Rodgers, it's Super Bowl or bust every year at this point. We both have like,
yeah, they should be winning the NFC Championship. That should be the expectation.
Yes, I agree. And they're not doing that this year. I still think Seattle is better than them, despite winning in week 2. I think Arizona is better than them. I think Carolina is better than them, to be honest with you, because Norman shuts down one half the field by himself. Who else? The
Falcons,
not better than them.
Good.
We'll see this weekend. I think Minnesota might be better than them. Minnesota's got
definitely playing better than them right now. That was a good win this weekend in Oakland.
Yeah, Minnesota's got a top 10 defense. They got Adrian Peterson that sets Teddy up perfectly for the most part. Teddy hasn't been spectacular, but he's good enough where like AP down the stretch here starts popping some 150 to 200-yard games, and they're legit, I think. So I think that there's some real issues, and I think your stance is mind blowing. But go ahead.
All right. Well, obviously, I'm hopelessly optimistic about the Packers. I always have been. Kind of the opposite of what it seems like most Packer fans are. When they lose games, for me, it's not all doom and gloom. Unless it's in the playoffs, that's always a gut punch. But as far as like Rodgers and McCarthy not getting along, and like McCarthy stopped calling the plays to get away from him and that stuff, I don't know if that's true or not.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
That's where like I feel like it's been brought up so much. Like if there's like smoke, there's a fire nearby. But
are these reports that McCarthy and Rodgers were yelling at each other in the locker room at halftime, or are they like, oh, well, something seems a little weird, so maybe McCarthy and Rodgers don't?
No, it's been reported like in years past, like that they've like butted heads, and there's been incidents where you see Rodgers and McCarthy butting heads on like this sideline, and I think it just builds up, and then you have like now the guys, like the players' quotes are not matching up with like what McCarthy's saying. So I think, like, for example, like with the Houston Rockets, they've said like there's been issues with McHale and some of the players, and then next thing you know, he's fired today.
Right.
So I think when there's smoke, there's a fire, and I think that there's some issues with Rodgers and McCarthy and the overall structure of what they're trying to do there.
See, and I almost go the other way on this. And the one thing that I do think, you've asked me privately a lot of times, well, what's going to change? And I think one thing that can change that will really help is getting that play sheet out of Tom Clement's hands and back into McCarthy's hands.
Okay, and
that is a major thing that I think they should do. That I actually just heard Josh Sitton today say some things that were like really condemning. He said our offense has become predictable. They know exactly what we're going to do. We don't try to. He said we're putting no stress on defenses. We're not stressing them at all. And I think that like they've been very vanilla. One thing that really bothers me watching the Packers is watching them throw 6-yard out routes every single time. And Rodgers, for the most part, obviously the last few games has not been great at throwing them, but for the most part, he's really good at throwing them. The receivers run good routes on him. I get it. They're fine at that. But you can't run an offense by having guys that are really good after the catching the ball, facing the line of scrimmage 4 yards away. That's just not going to work. And at some point, they have to go down the field a little bit. I get that Jordy's not there. You can't throw bombs to Cobb and to Adams all the time or anything. But in the last 3 games, how many passes have they attempted that landed more than 20 yards from the line of scrimmage?
No, I agree. I think but that's my thing. Like Rodgers says that they're like not open, and then you have McCarthy who's made the comment, well, maybe he needs to redefine his definition of open.
Yeah, and I think that that's true too, to a point that Rodgers doesn't take enough risks. I understand that. I get that. And I'm not saying people are wrong when they say that, but I don't think that McCarthy saying that is like a sign of him being fed up with Rodgers or something.
I don't think that that's like the kicking point. I think it's been built up where I don't think he's like sick of Rodgers, but I don't think that it's like paradise. I think that they butt heads a strong amount.
Well, it's definitely not paradise when you're losing 3 games in a row, especially.
No, I think even when they were winning, I think even when they were winning, that there's some stuff behind the scenes going on that.
Yeah,
but I mean,
maybe it's Olivia Munn's fault.
I mean,
point could be made.
You have to question it. Like, it has to be brought up. First real exposure of Olivia Munn, and he looks lost, and he has for almost the entire season.
Yeah.
So there's a real outside shot that if this doesn't get turned around, they could miss the playoffs.
Yeah, that's definitely still a possibility. But
I have their schedule here. Okay.
Yeah.
So this week at Minnesota.
It's a tough game.
You get the Bears in Lambeau. Bears are playing well, but I think that they probably win that game. But it's not a gimme at this point.
Well, no, it's not a gimme. And even if they beat Minnesota this week, if they lose to the Bears after that, it's probably over. If you're not winning that game in prime time in Lambeau,
with Favre getting retired.
Yeah, like all the pomp and circumstance.
Yeah. Then you have at Detroit, so they got a division stretch. But this final stretch isn't hard, isn't easy. Excuse me. You have at Dallas, it's in Lambeau. First Dallas with Romo and Dez and them hopefully trying to get back into the playoff picture.
They're not making the playoffs.
It's not out of the question. At Oakland, so you have to go west.
That's tough. Yep.
Throw it around the yard. At
not
Arizona,
a bad team. Obviously very good.
And then against Minnesota for a playoff spot, potentially, probably. So you look at that.
You also have to look at Minnesota's schedule the rest of the way because it's just as hard.
Okay, let's take a look at it.
They
play Packers at Falcons. They stink. Seattle.
They could lose to the Falcons in Atlanta. Would that surprise you?
No, not at all. But I think the Falcons stink. So
yeah, I don't think they're very good either.
Seattle, who I think is going to go on a run here, similar to last year. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if Seattle wins out for the regular season. That puts them at 11-5. At Arizona, it's tough. versus Bears, versus Giants, at Packers. So that's not an easy schedule.
That's a
So,
really tough schedule.
yeah. But I think the Packers is tough too.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that it isn't, but I guess we'll see in those games against the Vikings. Those are clearly going to be very important.
Yeah.
As far as the division
And
goes, if they split them, that's still a game advantage for the Vikes.
Yeah. And AP has been known to have some games against Green Bay.
Well, that's one thing we haven't really talked about is that the defense. Obviously, this last week was great against the Lions, who are bad. But the touchdown they gave up was a 1-yard drive.
Mm.
Yeah,
no, I think the defense hasn't been good against competent offenses. I'll say that.
Well, and they were bad against
Carolina,
Denver, which was really well, they're bad against Carolina too, but they're bad against Denver, which was really weird to me.
Yeah.
I guess I do think that a lot of that had to do with the 2 injuries at corner. That's tough when you lose two of your top 3 corners. That's a hard thing to cover any NFL passing game, even if it's Peyton, Ragar, Manning out there.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I think I think if you're a Packer fan, there's some real cause for concern. And
and I have a couple points. Number one is that pretty much every year you're going to play like shit at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that point to be in November. This has lasted longer than I would have liked, obviously. But like you're gonna have some bummer games. That's just the way it works. Everyone is going to.
Yeah.
So the big thing is making sure you get into the tournament, which now at this point isn't like that's not a lock.
No.
But you got to get in, and I think the teams, even with the same personnel, play different football in December and January than they play in October and November.
And okay, I don't disagree with that. I think if they get in, like they're a tough out, obviously, because you have Rodgers. And the mantra where like if you have a great quarterback, you can pretty much win anywhere. My issue is the guys aren't getting open first off. The defense gets exposed almost every playoff at some point. Last year the defense wasn't at fault. But the defense, I think, gets exposed against a good offense like Arizona. And it just seems I don't want to say like obviously you're not trading Rodgers. But
here we go.
The McCarthy-Rodgers marriage, I think, is like getting to like a breaking point where it's like McCarthy's going to be gone this year.
Yeah, that's another thing that you hear
because
people say, but it seems to me like it's almost entirely like fan created. Because not every year, but a lot of years they want Thompson's head, they want McCarthy's head, and it's things aren't that bad. The Packers have been like one of the 3 best football teams since Rodgers' first year.
But what is your expectation of the Packers year in and year out with the best quarterback in the NFL, allegedly?
Yeah, like I said, they should. The expectation should be to win the NFC every year.
And how many times since they won the Super Bowl have they even been in the NFC Championship?
Once. But
so at some point, like, and I think your fan
right, but if you just pull the plug. You pull the plug on McCarthy, who's coaching? Then who's the head coach? And are you as good? That's the question.
But that's the thing. Like you maybe have to find that out. Because at some point, I think even though you say that like they call for McCarthy's head, I don't think his job security has really ever been in actual danger. And I think that the fans are easy on like not getting to the Super Bowl compared to maybe other cities in Green Bay.
I think you're completely wrong about that.
There was an outrage over the fact that they were booing them on Sunday.
Outrage might be a strong word.
A lot of people were like, "Oh wow, how are Milwaukee season ticket holders booing the Packers?"
And I mean, like, and if I was there, I wouldn't have been booing, but I wasn't like pissed off that they were. And at the same, like, you kind of made my point for me about McCarthy's job security. It's always been there. There hasn't been, but the people are there. There are still a lot of people that call for his head. That's what I'm saying. It's fan created. It's not coming from the front office. It's not coming from a place
Well,
of
no,
like
because
actual football decisions.
the Packers don't handle their business that way. I think after the season, though, I think if it doesn't turn around and it doesn't go as well as it should, then that discussion is going to be had, I think.
Well, they better have somebody damn good in mind to replace him. Because if they go with some retread,
No, I don't think they do that.
Or are they hiring Romeo Crennel?
No. I think they would look at a guy like an Adam Gase or someone along those lines, like they did with McCarthy. McCarthy was an offensive coordinator. He didn't have any prior. They weren't. I think the Packers are smart like that, but I think there comes a point, especially in today's day and age, where like if it doesn't get done, like John Fox of the Broncos, like it just got to a point where it was like something needed to be, switched.
Right.
And I think that the Packers are getting to that point because since the Super Bowl, you've gotten to the playoffs and you've been repeatedly like either crushed or beaten by teams that probably aren't as good as you, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I mean, those are some very disappointing games, to watch in the playoffs after the 15-1 season.
Yeah,
after you lose to the Giants that year. I mean, they won the Super Bowl that year, but still.
No, they won the Super Bowl at 10-6 year. They went 15-1 and lost to the Giants in the second round after their bye. They got blasted.
No, the Giants won the Super Bowl that year. I'm saying so they lost to the Super Bowl champion.
Yes. So and then you get blasted by the Niners one year. Then you lose close at Lambeau the next year. Then you have the
then we're here. Then we're until last year.
Seattle, yeah. So, I mean,
which was a kind of a crazy fluke.
Yeah, it was very much so. Yeah, but
even the year before against San Francisco, if whoever that was hangs on to that interception, we're talking Packers winning that game. That's one play late in the game. It's not like they came in these last 2 years and just like laid a complete egg.
Yeah,
the 2 years before they did lay an egg.
Yeah,
and that's what I honestly think that I'm better at accepting the randomness of the NFL and just get us into the tournament, and you just have to hope you're playing well when you get there. Because the year they won the Super Bowl, they lost to Washington and Miami back-to-back weeks. Two terrible teams.
Tampa.
The Donovan McNabb Hail Mary pass.
It was Tampa. They lost to Tampa when they were 0-8 that year.
Okay, well either way, they lost to two really bad teams.
Josh Freeman. Yeah.
Well, they might have lost to Tampa and Miami and Washington that year.
I think that team had,
that's not. So I'm saying that, and then they got red hot, out of nowhere. It was the exact same. I specifically remember after those games against Washington, people saying they're not aggressive on offense. They don't go down the field. They won't, they're dinking and dunking, and they have a good quarterback. Why are they doing this? And then something changed, and they got stupid hot and won the Super Bowl.
And that very well could happen. And if it does, it would be in the same circumstance where it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But this has been going on I get what you're saying with the randomness, and I'm not even talking this 3-week sample. I'm talking this 6-week sample that they've been.
Yeah, they were bad when they were winning games.
Yeah.
For the first couple.
And at some point, maybe you are just who you are.
Yeah.
So that's just where I stand on that. If it happens where they do that, it would be like you said, it would be completely out of nowhere because they have shown not one sign of being a good football team that can win a Super Bowl, which I think is fair.
Yeah, I don't disagree that in the last 5 weeks, we'll call it, or 5 games, they have not looked like a team that could compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Right.
But over the next 5 weeks,
they could.
They might have a good week next week, and then get a little steam going with the Bears game, and then all of a sudden they beat Oakland, and then and then everything's back to normal and they're great. I don't think that's out of the question.
No, I just think that the percent of that happening is much slimmer than you lead on.
Yeah. Well,
so
I can't go through my life feeling like garbage about the Packers every day, so I don't.
Well, you don't have to feel like garbage. You just can accept what it is, and so
No, I don't like that either.
that about wraps it up. I think. I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on.
We don't know anything about gambling anyway, so I don't think our picks are ever any more or less right than anyone else's.
No, yeah, I don't. I haven't been very good. I can't put together a fantasy line to save my life either. So
I'm on a roll now.
Yeah. I guess that's it. We ran a little long, but I think it was good discussion.
Yeah.
It was good being back, talking a little bit, getting my opinions out there.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
thoughts. It's been bottled up a little bit. Next Wednesday.
You've kind of been a little bit LeBron on your monologues today. A lot of I've been away for a while and my opinions and a lot of I, not a lot of we.
I'm a me guy.
That's apparent.
That's what I am. At this point in my life, I look out for numero uno. So that about wraps it up. Hope you guys enjoy. Good luck to all your teams this weekend, and signing out.
See you later, Chuck.